Yeah, welcome in. Welcome back to another live episode of the Format Podcast. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, appreciate you joining. Got a pretty interesting episode here today. Going to talk about some pretty interesting topics, mostly NBA, and then we're going to get to a little NFL at the end. Going to hit on this Michael Jordan couldn't go left, and we done with the 80s nonsense. Definitely going to talk about that. Going to talk about Kevin Durant passing Shaquille O'Neal on the all-time scoring list and where that has his legacy. I'm going to talk about this new Mind the Game podcast with LeBron James and man, what's my man's name? Dang, I totally forgot. But the Mind the Game podcast that LeBron James has with JJ Redick. There we go. And of course, we're going to talk about Caleb Williams and the fact that he's almost certainly the number one overall pick in the upcoming NFL draft. But before we get to all that, you know what time it is. If you're here on YouTube and you haven't already, please make sure you go ahead, click that like, that subscribe, that notification bell. Make sure you're kept up to date whenever we drop new content on the channel. If you want the audio-only version of the podcast, open up your audio podcast platform, hit the search bar, type in The Format Podcast, and we should come right up. If you're enjoying the content, make sure you give us that like, that 5-star review, and drop a comment. All that stuff helps us rise in the algorithm, helps us find more sports fans, helps more sports fans find us. And finally, make sure you write it down, put it in your phone, set an alarm, do whatever you got to do to remember. Saturday nights at 7 p.m. we are live here on the Format Podcast, and we'll give you the opportunity to call in, talk to us, get at me. I love it. I can't wait. And joining me here today, of course, is my main man, G. He's back to discuss all things NBA and NFL. So we're going to have a good time with that tonight. What's going on, G?
Bruce, how's it going, man?
Maintaining, brother, maintaining as always, man. Glad to have you back. And we're gonna talk some sports like we do.
Absolutely.
All right. So the first, I guess, is a mini topic. Definitely wanted to hit on is I'm watching what Kyrie Irving is doing, right? And it was a big deal this past week that crazy left-handed hook shot he hit over Jokic to win that game, Dallas versus Denver. And it was wild, right? And I think people are looking at it and they're saying, well, we know that Kyrie has crazy layup package. He can do a lot of amazing things on the floor. But the reason specifically to me why that shot was wild and why what he's doing over the last 3-4 games is because right now he is celebrating the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. And shouts to all my Muslim brothers and sisters throughout the world celebrating the holy month of Ramadan. And if you don't know anything about it, it's a month of spirituality, prayer, and fasting where a Muslim doesn't eat or drink between sunrise to sunset for about 30 days. So Kyrie Irving is currently fasting for that. And it's interesting because when you do that fast, it's something that can really be difficult on you in terms of your body. Obviously, you're not fueling it the same way that you would on a normal day. And so going out there, expending all that energy, sweating and all that, not being able to eat until sundown, not being able to get hydration until sundown, it's an amazing thing. And he's actually, his points per game are up by about 3 so far this month. His assists per game are up by about 3 so far this month. So he's really, it's almost like he's more focused and his spiritual connection with the Almighty is allowing him to play at an even higher level. And it makes me think back to another guy. And if you watch the show, you know this, my favorite player of all time, Hakeem Olajuwon. And in February of 1995, he was fasting for the holy month of Ramadan as well. And he actually earned NBA Player of the Month during that month that's crazy to think about that, right? And he's had months where he had to fast during the playoffs and everything. And it just, took him to a whole nother level. So again, to all the Muslims throughout the world fasting and celebrating the holy month of Ramadan, hey, all the love out to you. G, you ever had to play a game not being able to eat or drink or anything like that? How you think that would go?
Nah, I don't think that would be in my best interest not to eat.
Right.
And so, yeah, I definitely take my hat off to everyone that's fasting right now and performing at a high level like Kyrie is doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, I believe Nurkic, Mo Bamba. There's a number of players in the league who who are Islamic and fasting and still going out there and getting it done. So yeah, definitely hats off to them. All right, so First topic we're going to get into, G, and I think this is a cool one, and I'm anxious to hear your thoughts on this because you and I are roughly about the same age. And so, as we know, this whole Michael Jordan thing has been, guys been butting heads back and forth over this for years now. The mainstream sports media is really pushing this. LeBron could be the GOAT, or LeBron is the second best player of all time narrative. Cool, but this isn't about that. Kind of what really gets me is with this whole thing is that the LeBron fans and the LeBron media, their biggest move is to denigrate Michael Jordan and to denigrate his competition and his era. And so with that, we have this whole movement of we're done with the 90s. You heard about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. A bunch of nonsense.
Crazy, right? So that's a whole social media movement, hashtag we done with the 90s. So I want to get your thoughts on that, and then we'll show some interesting graphics and we'll talk about it a little bit. Obviously, like I said, you and me, we came up in the same era, kind of learned basketball in a similar way, and had similar basketball influences. But what are your thoughts on this whole we're done with the 90s?
I think it's just a fad. People are, I mean, we don't really. Okay, let me take a step back. So I believe that a lot of the folks that's jumping on this bandwagon of we done with the '90s
Mm-hmm.
didn't really watch sports or basketball, play basketball
Mm-hmm.
when the Grant Hill drink Sprite or the I want to be like Mike commercial
Right.
was on, and or just being able to watch the game with your folks at parties and such, and
Mm-hmm.
seeing what the '90s was really like, right? Because the rules has definitely changed. Uh, there's no longer I mean, with the hand check to be able to do what Mike was doing, and granted he was one of the reasons why the hand check was changed, but
Yes.
at the same time, it was you was allowed to do that then, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's just interesting to see how people can say, oh yeah, the game wasn't the game back then,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Role players are always going to be role players. You're always going to have, well, you didn't always have free agency, but you do now.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some differences that change the game, but ultimately, uh, besides athleticism, and that's debatable, right? There hasn't been that much of a change from the '90s basketball now, besides the
Mm-hmm.
rules and I'll say the softness, the
Right.
lack of physicality of the
Mm-hmm.
sport. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm. So it's so interesting that you mentioned, and I wasn't actually going to go here, but it's interesting that they talk about the athleticism, because one of the things that the fans of the newer NBA and the modern NBA, I'll say, love to tout is saying that, in the 90s and whatnot, it was full of plumbers and they didn't have athletes and this, that, and the third. And I'm like, okay, cool. So here's one of my things about that, right? When it comes to it, I say, you look at a guy like a Sean Kemp, a Dominique Wilkins. The best athletes from back then would be just as good as the best athletes now. Like, I don't understand why we push this whole narrative that the athletes are so much better, bigger, faster, and stronger. Like, that's crazy. So let's look at it this way, right? If you learned science, right? Remember science in school, and they talked about evolution and dinosaurs and animals and all that, right? How long did evolution normally take? Thousands of years, if not forced by an external source, right? So we got a situation where back then evolution took thousands of years, and now we're saying evolution is jumping that fast today, that it's happening in 10 years, 5 years, 20 years. Like, that doesn't make sense. Now, if you tell me, okay, and this is the same thing I say all the time, athletes today, they have greater greater sports science and greater nutrition and greater technology. Yes, exactly, Mark. They have all these things that they can utilize, right? That's cool, but that doesn't make them better athletes. That means that they're taking advantage of the opportunities available to them. It's like I had a video about Rick Barry that a lot of people like. Check that out on the channel if you want to. And Rick Barry is basically saying, if we had everything that they have now, imagine the type of ball player I would be in conjunction with my knowledge of how to play the game, right? So I say it to say, the athletes are not better just by virtue of being born 30 or 40 years later. That's not it. They just have more things that they can utilize. So anyway, this whole we're done with the 90s thing is total nonsense, because again, the best athletes back then who don't even have what they have now, and I talk about it all the time, Karl Malone, how many years did he play all 82 games? John Stockton, a guy who is a plumber, who they're going to tell you couldn't play today, played 82 plus games 17 times in 19 years in a way more physical league. You can't tell me today's athletes are so much better and they can't even stay on the floor, right? Thoughts? G, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. One thing that one of the things that we are seeing is those 7'2" guards that's changing the game, right? They don't really have to jump off the ground to put the ball in the bucket, and that's changing the way we view the game now. Like, I don't know how these coaches are going to defend for someone that, you know, with damn near 9-foot wingspan and he's 7'4", right? Like that's going to be crazy. But I still think Karl Malone will get it done in the paint.
Absolutely.
All the bigs will get it done in the paint. However, there's not a lot of buckets inside of the paint going on right now.
Right.
Unless you ant and you flying over folks.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Facts. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So one of the things that we hear constantly with this whole, what is this? And by the way, if you checked in, please make sure you give us that like. We really appreciate it. It helps us out. So make sure you like the show and the channel. But anyway, yeah, one of the things that we hear is this nonsense about Michael Jordan couldn't go left. Okay, which is absolutely absurd. And of course, you have pro LeBron content creators. They are cherry picking a bunch of highlights with Michael Jordan maybe trying to drive left and turning the ball over, or Michael Jordan trying to drive left and not being able to make the shots. And so here's the thing. First, let's look at it this way. One, when it comes to Michael Jordan, 3 of his most iconic game-winning shots, people don't realize they were driving left. Okay, so there's that. Game 1 against Utah in 98, Game 6 against Utah in 98. The shot against Cleveland was at 1989, I believe, 89, over Craig Elo. All those were driving left, and he pulls up, right? So I suppose being a right-handed shooter, he was supposed to pull up driving left and shoot it left-handed. I don't know. Oh, I forgot. Remember the switch hands in the air in the 91 finals against Magic Johnson? Yeah, he switched hands and finished that with his left. So, I mean, we got to stop this Michael Jordan couldn't go left foolishness, right? So what we're going to do here, what we're going to do is I'm actually going to share some information that my man G sent me during the week. So I'm going to share some information here. Check it out. So first, we're going to see some information here that shows us Michael Jordan went to his left more than he actually went to his right. His field goal percentage was almost identical, but I got some more. Check this out.
For some context, throughout this 3-year span, Michael made on average 4.4 left-handed isolation moves, or in this case, isolation possessions, that resulted in 1.31 points per possession. Now, here are some prolific scorers from this season and their overall tendencies and efficiency in isolation. Keep in mind, this data includes both right-handed and left-handed moves from these players. And now here is Michael Jordan, with just his left hand. So, yeah, I'd say contrary to what has now become popular belief, Michael Jordan had a left hand. And I cannot believe we had to dig into the data to come to this conclusion.
So this nonsense that Michael Jordan couldn't go left is absolutely absurd. And the reason, unfortunately, that we had to dig into the data to come to this conclusion is very simply due to the fact that most of the people who are pushing this narrative didn't see Michael Jordan play. And this is the thing that you talked about earlier, G. A lot of people that's kicking this stuff, they didn't see it like we saw it. And it's cool if you're younger, and it's the same thing I say all the time. If you're younger and you didn't see it, that's cool. Don't speak definitively on what you don't know. Like when people hit me and they tell me, if Wilt played today, I say, you know what? I respect your opinion. You saw Wilt play. I didn't see it, so I can't speak to that. I can speak to what I saw until now. I can speak a little bit on what I've done some research on, but I didn't see Wilt, so I'm not even going to argue that. And I think that's one of the biggest things right there. But the point is, this whole we done with the 90s and the 90s was so terrible and Michael Jordan couldn't go left. It's a lie. It's a lie, plain and simple. So, I mean, we can go through all that, but yeah. You got anything to add before you open these phone lines up, G?
Nah, we should open these phone lines up.
All right, let's do that. Give me 1 second. Let me go ahead and put the number up. All right, so what we're gonna do now, we're gonna open the phone lines up. If you want to go ahead and call in, I know Jakari waiting to give me a shout, so that's gonna be 904-219-8264. Go ahead, let's call in and let's see what you got to say.